The opinions of Lincolnshire are pretty much standard, especially from those who have never even set foot in the county. It's all flat, isn't it? Isn't it all farming? I've never had a reason to go. And yes, those statements do have a small amount of credibility to them, but do they paint the real picture? Absolutely not. In fact, you'll find they only just scratch the surface. Time now to delve into a collection of truly milestone feats the county has enjoyed, which most people are blissfully unaware of. For thousands of years, the pyramids of Giza stood as mankind's tallest structures. But that would all change in 1072 when work began on constructing a great cathedral. After several restarts, its completion in 1311, measuring a staggering 525 feet, meant that Lincoln Cathedral had just been crowned the new tallest building in the world. It would remain the world's tallest building for 238 years, only relinquishing its crown when a lightning strike brought down its central spire in 1549. Leading the way for women. Our next stop is Grantham to unveil a couple of significant firsts for Britain. It was above this grocery shop owned by her father that Margaret Hilda Thatcher was born in 1925. She would attend the local girls' school before studying chemistry in Oxford. An MP in 1959, she was eventually elected Prime Minister 20 years later, the first female in turn to do so. Dubbed the Iron Lady, she would navigate the country through the Falklands War and lead her party to 3 election wins, more than anyone else in the 20th century. Her legacy continues to defy opinion, but there's no doubting her impact on the world stage and her place in history as Britain's first female Prime Minister. In 1915, Edith Smith became the first policewoman in the United Kingdom, serving from this very police station. Granted full powers of arrest, she walked the town's streets, dealing primarily with cases where women were involved. As a true role model, she would later speak at conferences around the country on women's policing. Her pioneering role would pave the way for future female officers. Leading the way in engineering. Now in truth, this next magnificent feat can only really be half accredited to the county of Lincolnshire, that being the mighty Humber Bridge. Now it was opened in 1981 by Her Majesty the Queen, and at the time it was the world's longest single-span suspension bridge. Travelling its full length and a whopping 1,410 metres later, it joins with Hessle in the East Riding of Yorkshire. Work began in 1973, taking 8 years to complete. The concrete towers are 155 metres tall and were built to be 36 millimetres further apart from each other at the top than at the bottom to allow for the curvature of the earth. In 2017, the Humber Bridge was given Grade 1 listed status by Historic England, and it remains the longest in the world that can be crossed on foot or by bicycle. Before this time, it would have been necessary to take a ferry across the river, one of which, the Tattershall Castle, now resides as a floating restaurant viewing the south bank of London. Now, did you know there's enough cable on that bridge to wrap itself almost twice around the earth? Leading the way spiritually. John Wesley, one of England's greatest spiritual leaders, was born here at the old rectory in Epworth in 1703. He later founded the Methodist Church. Last night's lost tune is the end of the end of the... Methodism would continue to grow throughout the world, and in fact one of the oldest remaining chapels that's still in use is here in Wraithby near Spilsby, and was actually opened by Wesley in 1779. Vara was a British Anglican priest from Barton upon Humber. And as a social activist, in 1953 he founded the Samaritans, the world's first crisis hotline. Pinchbeck's Key Market store, where Morrison's now stands, was chosen to host the historic moment when the country's first barcode on a packet of Melrose tea bags was scanned back in October 1979. Tucked away in the Lincolnshire wolds at over 350 metres high, the Belmont mast was at one time the tallest structure in the European Union. This was up until 2009 when a section was removed. Today it still beats the Eiffel Tower and the Shard in London by at least 30 metres. And talking of heights, in the bustling market town of Louth, St James Church is the tallest parish church in the country, with a spire of 293 feet. Then there's also the tallest windmill in Britain, down amongst the fens in Moulton. And if that's not enough, you can then head across to Heckington and visit the only working 8-sailed windmill in the world. Michael Foale, born in Lincolnshire, was the second Briton in space and the first to perform a spacewalk. Appropriately, he has a street named after him in his hometown. Before Glastonbury and before Woodstock in America, in fact before them all, came Spalding Barbecue 67. Yes, it's true, this event was the first rock festival in the world, showcasing up-and-coming act Jimi Hendrix in the Tulip Auction Room. Also on the list that day were little-known artists Pink Floyd and Cream, featuring a certain Eric Clapton. Hendrix would later stay at the Red Lion in the centre of town. On November the 1st, 1925, an historic event took place at Crowland Abbey. The sound of the bells on BBC Radio became the first ever church bells to be transmitted over the airwaves. The Abbey is also claimed to have been the first church in England and amongst the first in the world to have a tune peal or ring of bells. And on top of that, at 90 feet, the pull or ropes are the longest in England. The county even hosts the oldest oak tree in Britain, the Bowthorpe Oak, which resides in Manthorpe near Bourne. And with a girth of almost 13 metres, it's also said to be the thickest. Dating from 1611, Alford's Manor House is the largest thatched house in the UK. And with a diameter of 16 feet, the clock at Coningsby St Michael's Church is the largest one-handed clock in the country. east coast lies the popular resort of Skegness. And it would be here that the British holiday would be changed forever. In 1936, entrepreneur Billy Butlin decided to revolutionise the holiday industry, aiming to make the British seaside break accessible to all. His hope was to create a place of colour and happiness with quality activities and entertainment. And the first camp was opened here in Skegness in 1936. He would be a leading pioneer in the world of service. Not only that, but he was also the person to introduce the popular Dodgems amusement ride to the UK. Did you know? Many famous stars began their career at Butlin's, from Cliff Richard and Benny Hill to Ted Rogers, Jimmy Tarbuck, Des O'Connor and Stephen Mulhern. Oh, and I was even there too. And finally, Butlin's would also play a part in the creation of the most successful band in history. Ringo Starr was actually talent spotted whilst performing at the camp in Skegness by none other than John Lennon. This in turn leading to the invention of the turbojet engine. The red arrows light up skies all over the world, and particularly during national events. When you sit down to eat your next lunch, dinner or tea, there's a very good chance it's been produced here in the county. It also has in its own right a wonderful selection of award-winning delicacies. 2013, the town was voted the best place to live in Britain by the Sunday Times. And contradictory to what most people may think, the county is certainly not all flat.